Hi there, I'm Andrea Koppel, and it's Time for Coffee, the podcast where you get to hear firsthand what the jobs and careers that interest you the most are really like. Hey there, Java Junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career double shot K-Cup with my guest, Joe Yonan. So, Joe, what advice do you have for our young listeners who may want to get into this industry? What didn't you know when you were their age that you wish you did?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think I wish that I knew that the way to get better at writing is to just keep writing and to write as much as you can. So if you want to be a writer, I mean, it sounds so simplistic in a way, but if you want to be a writer, the most important thing that you can do is write. So finding outlets for that, nowadays you can do a lot of that writing on social media. You can certainly start your own blog and you can get attention that way. And I think at a certain point, what's also really important is to find someone who's willing to give you feedback about your writing and mentor you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I read somewhere as I was preparing for this interview, one person's opinion saying that it is no longer enough just to be a good writer. And that if you want to get into this industry, you really should supplement your writing with things like knowledge about a particular kind of food or enhancing your photography skills or your obviously cooking skills or even working in the food industry, whether on a farm or a grocery store or a restaurant.
Yeah, I think that can absolutely help. I mean, I think the more exposure you get to, different aspects of the food world, it's only going to enrich your ability to write about them. I also have to say that we're journalists first. So I also want to make sure that people are honing those skills. And again, that's something that's, really, obviously you can study it in school, which I think can be really helpful, but not a requirement. But I think experience is really the thing. I don't think that I would have been as effective at my job if I had come out of college and just decided, I want to be a food writer and just, started writing about food. I think that it was really helpful for me to spend years working for small publications where I had to cover all sorts of things. If you have to go to a small town city council meeting or board of selectmen or even a sewer water commission meeting, which I had to do, and turn hours of that kind of meeting into something that will be interesting to readers who didn't maybe think that they were interested in what that sewer water commission board was doing. It teaches you how to look for news. It teaches you how to write in a lively and concise way. It teaches you things that are going to be useful no matter what the subject matter is that you're going to be covering later.
Joe, I look back on some of the stories and issues that I covered over the years, and I only wish that I could say that I turned them into something interesting. But I'm thinking back to when I first moved to Tokyo and had to cover the Japanese parliament, what they call the Diet, and some of the shifts that were taking place in terms of the party in power. And I, honest to God, think I fell asleep halfway through the scripts that I wrote. So,
right.
Yeah,
right.
You clearly are a much more talented writer than I.
Well, I guess I should say that sometimes it's just about the trying and developing a sense. I think it's also important to know when something doesn't need to be written about, I think that's also really good. I guess I ultimately mean, I think it can be really helpful to be exposed to things that take you out of your comfort zone and that kind of force you to think about some of the more universal aspects of journalism and writing, rather than immediately going into I'm reluctant to say narrow, but for lack of a better word, I'll say to a narrow subject matter, just because I think it's sort of like learning how to drive standard before you drive automatic. I just think there are certain basic skills that every journalist needs to develop before they sort of start to specialize.
100%. And I think that's such an important point to make, that even if our young listeners know now that they want to get into food writing, they may need to look at other beats where they can actually land a job.
Right.
And to do so, if they can, at news organizations where they think they'll get the mentorship that they need to improve, and that
right.
they'll have good editors who will help them improve, because God knows you don't come out of the gate writing like Hemingway.
That's right. That's right. And I do worry sometimes that, blogging and social media and other digital platforms that are kind of easy to access, they solved one of the main catch-22s that there used to exist when it came to finding your first job or getting your first assignments, which is that it's hard to get assignments without clips. And how do you get clips without assignments, right? That whole problem. And this easy access to self-publishing solved that. But I do think that unless you are just unusually talented, you do at some point, and preferably early before you get into some bad habits, you do really need to seek out good editing.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to Time for Coffee, where the professionals in the jobs that most interest you always have time to grab coffee 24/7, no matter where you live. I have one quick favor to ask you. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Time for Coffee. Thanks so much.